Hey guys, it's George from the George and Isa channel. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about vibe coding, aka Clankware Engineering, for free. There are so many tools out there for vibe coding, both paid and free. Today I'm going to talk about some of the free options you have, and you effectively can make whatever you'd like and spend nothing. So the first question to ask is, do you use an integrated developer environment, IDE, or the web UI? So everyone's going to be familiar with the web UI providers at this point because they are the providers of the frontier models. So ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini are your big three. All three of those are free up to certain limits with their premium models, but you also have their cheaper free models. You also have DeepSeek and Qwen, which are unlimited and free, but they are of a less quality than the first three, in my opinion. But all of these in the web UI interface are best for learning. Now, I know we're vibe coding. All right, we're not writing the code out by hand, but learning is essential. You must at least understand what the AI is producing. Even at a high level, you sort of get what's going on. You can't read absolutely every line. You don't get it entirely. You need to know something. And the best thing for learning and asking questions about the code is the web UI, because you have access to the cloud-hosted frontier models, and you're not using tokens or being forced to use cheaper free models. So the web UI providers and the web UI interfaces are best for learning and are good for coding. You can make probably very small projects or very specific functions and solutions with the web UI interface. You just copy and paste it into your project, or you use something like ChatGPT Canvas where you can actually see the project running live, depending on what you're doing. But the problems are, it has a lack of context on the other systems or files that are making up your project. If you have a complex project, let's say a video game, you'll have dozens of folders with nested scripts inevitably, because you have lots of components and lots of systems interacting together. Your web UI is not going to know of all the files that you have and how they interrelate to each other. So there's a lack of context. Second is it's slow, not to generate the code, but copying and pasting it across from the web UI to your code editor. You have to tweak the result, fix bugs, change the patterns to fit the rest of the patterns of your scripts. It could just be a lot, especially if we're making complicated projects. So those are the two big problems. With those in mind, it's still very good. Now, probably get from my answer on the web UI providers that the IDE is where I'd go for vibe coding. You can use any of the models from the frontier providers over here and the open source too, plus several more. You have the IDE tools that you're familiar with if you've done coding without AI before. So your syntax checking, your extensions, file splitting, find and replace, all of the text editor features we're used to are all available in the IDE, but are not available in the web UI for vibe coding. It is context aware. These IDEs can deploy agents to read all of your files and get context on how everything is working together. That is the big, most important benefit of the IDEs. Lastly, MCP servers. You do get MCP servers in the web UI as well, but they're different and not as effective. Applying an MCP server like Context 7 gives you the latest documentation when it generates the code, and that is very important, especially in a context-aware environment. So this is best for coding. It is okay for learning. You can still ask questions in your vibe coding IDE interface. So say if you go down here to chat, you can ask questions about your code base, and you can ask questions about anything, but you're just sort of wasting your tokens, and the free models aren't going to answer as well. So best to leave your questions for the web UI and save your coding for the IDE. Problem is the cost can go up. Today we're talking about free versions of all of these things, but once you get started, you may be inclined to use the more premium features, pay for the monthly subscription, or get your own API keys and you'll pay per usage. So that cost can ramp up, but it is not necessarily a problem because we have the free options. Let's get into the free IDEs, or at least the free tiers within each of these IDEs, and then I'll move on to self-hosting and totally free solutions in the next sec. But these three options are very popular. They've got well-funded companies behind them. They've got lots of users and community support. They're great options to get started at the very least. And if you feel so inclined, you can give some money for the subscriptions and use these things perpetually. So I've talked about Windsurf and Cursor before in previous videos. I wanted to talk more specifically about the free options within these IDEs and how good they are, what I feel about them, and what I think people are sort of sleeping on a bit. So I don't hear a lot about Windsurf in the broader vibe coding community. A lot of people talk about Cursor and Claude Code and Codex, but Windsurf gets slept on, and I'm not sure why. You have these three always free options for model selection in Windsurf. GPT-5 Codex, the no reasoning model, is always free. SWE1, I don't know if that means software engineering 1, but that is Windsurf's own free model. There's also 1.5 that's come out that is a bit better, but that's not free. And you also have Grok Code Fast that is supposed to be temporarily free, but it's been free for months now. So might be something to get on board with. And all of these three are very fast and very effective, even with multi-file complex changes. You still get the benefits of the Agentic IDE. It can go and read all your files and understand, even with using these lighter weight, faster model. One thing to know, at the moment, there's a free promo for GPT 5.1. I've got a code in the description to sign up to Windsurf. You can make an account. That'll give me some tokens, but you get access to the free promo with the account that you don't need to pay for. It's all free right now. The GPT 5.1, you've got your high, medium, and low reasoning models and your no reasoning codex as well. So use that while it's free. Your top tier models free right now, Windsurf. Cursor has the free tier within limits. You got your auto mode and Grok Code are the two free within the limits. And then you have some limited capacity to use the frontier models too, but I didn't include that here because that's not consistently free. Your auto on your free tier is free forever within your limits. The detriment of these two, more so with the auto mode, is you don't really know what model it's selecting in the background. It's going to be selecting something cheap to save Cursor money. So your output can be hit or miss, but the more specific you are, the more clear you are with your requirements, the better value you'll get from the auto mode. And Grok Code, I believe it's the same Grok Code Fast 1 model. It just is called Grok Code in Cursor, and it is just as good as it is in Windsurf, and it's free. So definitely try that out. And my advice would be get both. Get both of these IDEs. There's no real reason why you can't swap between them. They're two lightweight programs that are on your computer. You can interact with the same code base. They're both forks of VS Code, so they feel the same. You can swap between them, use up all your free limits on both, and then move on once they're reset for the next month. Or in the case of Windsurf, they're always free. So maybe don't even move on from there. The last one to touch on is GitHub Copilot. It comes with these limits per month. You also get access to all the frontier models, or at least the important frontier models with GitHub Copilot. It's integrated with VS Code, which most people in the software world are familiar with. For me, these limits are quite low, but you may as well use it up each month. Get a few good requests for your project, and then just swap back to one of the other IDEs. I thought I'd touch on this because it does have a free tier, and we're talking about free stuff today. The final thing, I should say the final section, is a bit more complicated. And whilst it is free if you already have the required tools, to do this effectively, you kind of do need a nice computer. There are cloud providers out there, which I'll get into a little bit more, but that is a cost. So to do this at no usage cost, you will need a computer with a GPU. So what are these tools here? Here we have Cline and then Continue. Both of these are extensions that you can install on VS Code. They're technically their own platforms. You can check out their website. But within VS Code, they effectively emulate your GitHub Copilot agent window. It's on the right-hand side here. So if you look at Continue, for example, see, it's like your same agent interface. It's an open source thing. I wouldn't be surprised if these other companies are using learnings at least or technologies from this company because it all seems very familiar. But it's effectively open source or free versions of your vibe coding agentic interface on the right hand side. You'll see Cline is a little bit more popular. It's got 2.5 million installs, which is pretty good. The beauty with these two tools is that they're free and open source, and you can connect them with your self-hosted models, which I'll talk about in a moment. You could also plug in your API keys from the big providers and just pay for usage. So I've got that here. These two plus an API, you're just paying for your usage rather than your monthly subscription, but totally free. You want to go to Ollama. Look at that fucking, look at that dude. He looks sus. Ollama is a platform where you can self-host models on your own GPU. If you haven't heard of Ollama, check out their website. It's a platform where you can host models on your own machine. They have open source models available for download. You simply install the program onto your computer. You open up the terminal. It's a little bit scary if you've never used the terminal before, but not too complicated. Use AI to help you. And you can install various models. I've got a few example ones here. GPT OSS, Qwen 3, DeepSeek R1. All of these open source models can be self-hosted on your own machine and fed into the agentic platforms, Continue and Klein for a totally self-hosted, totally free agentic vibe coding setup. Now the drawback is you need GPU. You'll notice on Ollama, these 8B, 70B, 405B, the various number and B combos are basically how many billions of parameters these models have. So Llama 3.1, you can select the 8 billion parameter through to 405 billion parameter models. The more parameters, the more VRAM you need for your GPU, and the better the model responses will be. But if you don't have a GPU that can host a 405 billion parameter model, which is likely you need quite beefy GPUs for that, you've got the cheaper, lower parameter models here, but they will perform worse. The trade-off is if you don't have a great GPU, or even if you do have a great GPU, you're still not getting the cutting edge models. The cloud hosted versions will always be superior, but it's free. You just host it on your machine. It'll run the inference locally. So that's effectively it. Last minute summary. So that's effectively it. Let's summarize to wrap this up. Should you use an IDE or a web UI? You should use both. For vibe coding, use an IDE. For learning, grab the web UI, or for prototyping, use the web UI. It's free up to certain limits. For IDE selection, you have Windsurf, Cursor, GitHub Copilot within VS Code. Windsurf, as you can see, has the most free options and they're perpetually free. So use Windsurf, but I'd suggest rotating between the three, maximizing your limits and then waiting for the reset the next month. Or you could self-host using Klein Continue in VS Code via the extensions. Self-host your models on Ollama, feed that into those agents, and it's totally self-hosted, no extra cost. But you need a good graphics card. Thank you very much. Catch you later.